Many of our people do not realize how firmly the foundation of our faith has been laid. Light was given that helped us to understand the Scriptures in regard to Christ, His mission, and His priesthood. A line of truth extending from 1844 to the time when we shall enter the city of God was made plain.
Welcome, everybody. I want to say a Happy New Year and hope that you have a blessed 2018. We are here, Line of Truth Ministries. I'm Matt, and this is my wife, Lori, and we just wanted to take some time. This is a time of year that people reflect on their past year, how things went for them the past year, and this is a time when many people are looking to establish resolutions. I know that I've made many resolutions in the past.
Yeah, me too.
And haven't always kept them, and that's human nature. But we wanted to take this time to look at our past year, especially with Line of Truth Ministries, and just share about what the Lord has laid upon our hearts for 2018. Not just as a ministry, but as a family, because really the Line of Truth Ministries, we started past year in 2017 in the summer, and we're going to share a little bit about that. But it's really just our family. It's me and my wife and our children, and God put a burden upon our heart to just share and to reach out and do what we can to prepare people for the soon coming of Jesus Christ. And so
Right.
it really is just us.
Yeah, and as I look back on this past year, where we were 1 year from now, Matt, it's just unbelievable to me how the Lord has led. And, sometimes you get ideas in your mind, you think the Lord is leading a certain way, and you kind of have a plan for the year. And then I have to say, on this year, looking back, God took us on some pretty incredible directions that I never foresaw. No.
Well, you never really can predict what God has in store.
That's right.
When you say to God, "Here we are, just use us. We have no will, we have no agenda. Just take us wherever. Open the door.
Yeah.
Take us wherever." We'd never had a thought in our minds that we would end up in Australia. So that's kind of where our story starts in 2017.
Yeah, well, let's take them back a year ago. We were in
Well, why don't we take them back? I was born in September 28, 1990. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we don't want to go that far.
We don't have enough time for that. So, all right.
So yeah, a year ago at this time, we were in Wyoming. You were working as a lay pastor. We were wrapping that up. We felt called to go to work with Misty Mountain in Australia and become medical missionaries.
Which is a health retreat. We were studying about health
with
quite
Barbara
a bit at that time.
So we thought, okay, this is the way the Lord is leading us. At that time you had decided God wasn't leading you to work for the conference and become a pastor. So
yet at the same time, I knew that I have known for quite a while that God was calling us to do full-time ministry, but that was never. Many people think of full-time ministry. They think, okay, well, I got to go to school, got to get that degree, got to become a pastor, got to go through the seminary, work with the conference, and that's not what full-time ministry is all about.
Right.
Necessarily. God has a full-time ministry for just regular people.
Right. And so in correspondence with Barbara O'Neill by email, I had asked her, how can we learn more about being a medical missionary? And she wrote back and said, why don't you come volunteer?
So that's how we ended up in Australia.
Really, we have nothing to lose. We don't have anything tying us
So
down.
we packed up all of our stuff, and it's still in Wyoming.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with it, but it's safe. Probably a little cold this time of year because it's been snowing. There's been a cold front coming through. But so we packed up all of our stuff, and we went to Australia. Yep. And when we got there the first week, we met a lot of like-minded believers that were in harmony with what we believe as a family, as individuals, as Christians, as Seventh-day Adventist Christians. We believe in the traditional understanding of what the Lord founded this movement upon, and that is the fundamental principles. One of them including the character, the nature of God and who God is. That we understand that God is a father, and he has a son, a begotten son, which is Jesus Christ, whom he gave for the world. And so we came to that understanding, and God led us to Australia, and we met all of these people while we were there. Now, we thought we were going to be doing health work. We knew, well, people aren't really going to be too open. We actually didn't want to speak about the whole idea of that the Trinity is not in the Bible.
And we had never actually met a live flesh and blood
right.
non-Trinitarian up to that point, and we didn't
for
know.
What was it, like 9 months or something?
Right.
We didn't know any other believers like us, so we figured
so
they were few and far between.
That was not our purpose at all in going to Australia. But
we ended up meeting a lot of people there. We somehow ended up in a hub there, and I think the interesting story is in 2016. Probably the people that had the greatest impact just watching the videos on YouTube was number one, Barbara O'Neill, and the other one was Nader Mansour from Australia. And within the first week of being in Australia, we met them both, which we never thought we would meet Nader. That wasn't really a plan, but within the first week, we met him, met quite a few other people. And it was amazing just to see during our time there in Misty Mountain, God opening the doors and connecting with us with people. But to make a long story short, we had an invitation. There was a group of people that asked us to come back there. And the idea was we had it in our mind and our hearts to start a ministry. And we knew that's where God was calling us, what God was calling us to do. We've known that for years. That was in our heart for years to be able to do that and just work for the Lord directly. And so we came back to America, and that's when we were in North Carolina at a camp meeting. I stayed back in a hotel, and I was wrestling, okay, well, we're going to start a ministry. What should the name be? And I came across the quote where it says, many of our people do not realize how firmly the foundation of our faith has been laid. Every time I read that now, when we were in Australia, just a quick side story, there's wonderful friends of ours. They have a daughter, Katie, that she came over, and Katie's always doing these voices. And so one day I was saying that in Russian. You remember that? So now I can't.
Don't remember that.
Oh, so now I can't say it without saying it in a Russian accent.
Yeah.
Many of our people do not realize how firmly the foundation of our faith has been laid. But so the quote goes on to say that light was given in regard to Christ. And when I read that for the first time, it was like, oh, wow. I mean, right there at the very beginning, the foundation of our faith was laid in 1840, shortly after 1844, that the foundation was firmly laid. And part of that foundation was light in regard to Christ and who he was. And understanding the vision that she had of the Father and the Son. And Jesus said, I am the express image. She saw that in vision. That's the very foundation of our faith. That Jesus is the express image of the Father. He is the Son of God. And so she was shown a line of truth. And she relayed that to others. And I just loved that phrase there. So that's how I decided to come upon that name and started developing a website and everything else.
One quick testimony that happened right around that time. I mean, as soon as God revealed us and opened up the doors to start this ministry, my computer died and it would not work. I think it was having issues that seemed like hard drive issues. So, I mean, and so about 2 weeks, I couldn't even get the thing to turn on. And then I was kind of relating this to you, that it's too bad my computer just died because I can't help you at all with anything. And then all of a sudden you said, we haven't prayed about it. And so you said, go get the computer. I went and got it, and we had the kids gather around. We all laid hands and we all prayed for the computer. And then Matt opened it and turned it on, and it started right up. And it's been, it happened like 8 months ago now, and I haven't had one problem with it.
You healed your computer. Yeah, it's right there. We're looking at it, and it's still working.
This was like weeks that I kept trying to turn the thing on, and it wouldn't work until
we had pretty much consigned it to the trash heap,
Right.
the rubbish bin, as they would say in Australia, or the tip. Okay, so we ended up coming back to Australia, and we have a couple of pics here. I wanted to show you. I mean, we have plenty of other pictures. Now, Australia is beautiful. We just loved Australia. They're beautiful beaches. This is our daughters Hannah and Haley on the beach. There was a wonderful group of people there that we were able to just to fellowship with and associate with, and they were just so supportive.
And really good food.
And really good food,
week.
yes. Really good food. This was a beach that we were able to go to there in Port Macquarie. One Sabbath, on Sabbath, we were having fellowship in a place, excuse me, in a place called Lake Cat-Eye, but it's spelled Kathy with a C, but Cat-Eye. And it was right by the beach, and so Sabbath afternoons we were able to go down and spend some time walking on the beach. And this was one Sabbath afternoon we took this picture. So God just really blessed in Australia, and when we got there and started speaking out, or at least I felt when I started speaking out about the issue of the whole Trinity, non-Trinity thing, that God just opened my mind and just started pouring these messages, things that I'd never seen in the scriptures, and just would get done with some of the sermons and was blown away that basically had the thought like, wow, I mean, that was not me. Right. That was nothing that I did. Like, that was God just took over and wrote this message and it just revealed this message, and it felt like I was a spectator in a lot of sermons, particularly this sermon. There's one song of the Lamb.
And it was neat to watch. Here he's sick in bed one day, and it's just all these thoughts are coming to him, and I'm sitting there ironing his clothes, and he's just like sharing all of this with me, and it had to be from God.
That was that was a song of the Lamb.
Right.
The one about the city and the tower, the 1 John 5. There was several. God just opened up the scriptures, and I'm just truly humbled by that. It just was a neat experience, and I don't attribute it to anything that. I'm not special. I'm not anybody that is more talented or more intellectual.
Education.
I don't have any education. By God's grace, I did have some sort of training. We went to both of us went to evangelistic school, but we're just normal people just trying to do God's work, and I hope that's our life can be an encouragement of what God can do through somebody when you just lay everything on the line. You're willing to just go and do whatever He wants you to do, and really make yourself vulnerable. It's difficult with a family, especially a young family. And just to put everything in storage and not know, how we're going to financially support ourselves or anything like that. But we look back and God has blessed tremendously. Now, there was one thing else that happened in Australia. God really put it upon my heart. I actually ended up coming back to America in September and did some interviews, and that was this series called The Final Protest. Now, I don't have a lot of experience doing videos, and by God's grace, I've been learning and more about technology. I like doing stuff on the computer and websites, and He's really blessed with an understanding, at least giving me more and more of an understanding. I'm certainly not any kind of professional or anything like that, but just learning and getting experience and getting better at the graphics and the website. I only started really video editing in June or July, really. And so this Final Protest was kind of a big project, and I did all these interviews and put it together. And I see it and I see all these mistakes, but but that's what you do when you look at your own work. But I don't know. I think it turned out pretty well. If you haven't seen that, go look at them. The Final Protest. You can go on our YouTube page, Line of Truth.
Right.
So
when we got invited back to Australia, they were gonna provide some housing and things for us. But when we got there, they hadn't yet actually a few days before we left, they still had not found housing for us.
Yeah, we were in America. We were about
right,
to
we're
leave.
in America, ready to go back to Australia, and they still don't have housing. So,
but we knew God wanted us to be there
because they ended up sending us on a 2-week road trip, which was definitely the experience of a lifetime.
Well, why don't you tell them before that?
What about before that?
When we stayed on the beach.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got there and we house sitted for 2 weeks.
They didn't have a place
family that was in Fiji, and so we got to stay right on the beach. We went and walked on the beach every day. It was just beautiful, and I remember sitting there thinking, "Wow, look at this! God has brought us here, and we didn't pay a penny for our plane ticket. We're not paying a penny for our housing. Everything is provided. Like God is providing all of our needs."
And that's not saying anything to like brag or anything about us, but just like, I mean, just willing to go and be used by Him and just trust in Him.
Like,
trust in Him, and
He is more than able to provide, and He does a good job. He knows what we need.
Well, we were really, I remember that I remember that moment, and we were just in awe and humbled as we were looking out over this beautiful beach and eating breakfast and thinking like, wow,
we don't deserve this.
Absolutely not. But after that, okay, now we went on
2 weeks in that beach house and then 2 weeks on a road trip.
And how did you feel about the road trip?
I was very nervous, especially at the time I had a lot of diet restrictions, and
so we didn't know who we were going to stay with. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know who we were going to stay with. We didn't know what they ate or anything about them. All we knew was we're getting in a car with our family and we're driving for 2 weeks.
Stay in a new home practically every night. So we get up, pack our stuff, get in the car. So we didn't know how it was going to be, but it ended up being very life-changing. We came back from the trip thinking, wow, we need to do this more.
It was the people that we met, I mean, they're good friends.
There's just something about like going and meeting people where they're at and socializing with them, and I really feel
it was a huge blessing for us.
Oh yeah.
But I know it was a blessing for them too, because talking about people that believe the same way we do concerning God, and they've been ostracized.
Of them are isolated, and
so it was a blessing to them. It was a blessing to us, and it was just it was just a wonderful experience, and like you said, life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-changing. Now, one thing we also did, because we had visa issues, we had to go out of the country every 3 months, and so we had the opportunity to go to and that in and of itself was really divine, because we were going to go to New Zealand, and you hear something going on. Those are our children up there in the room. Uh-oh. So we had an opportunity to go to Malaysia. Do you want to go and check it out? So we had the opportunity to go to Malaysia, and how that worked out was we were planning on going to New Zealand, come right back to Australia. And one evening, I believe it was, I was on a group on Messenger and got in contact. There was a group there in Malaysia just within the last couple months, I think the beginning of January this last year. One individual, Felix, was sharing, and other people started understanding and knowing the truth as well. So it was really a neat opportunity to go over there, just encourage those brothers and sisters, and to share some of the messages. I had some pictures, but something happened in my software here, so I can't really share those. Now, before we that was actually from Fiji. Before we left Australia, or we knew we were going to leave. We were planning on leaving in January or so, and we ended up through some circumstances having to leave in December. Visa issues made it kind of inconvenient to stay for long periods of time. So we ended up we were going to go to somewhere We wanted to go somewhere to take a break, relax, rest, recover as a family over the Christmas time, and we were going to go to the Philippines. I think it was because the flights were cheap. It was cheap to stay there for a week or two. Through a series of circumstances, we ended up going to Fiji and ended up going on a 3-week medical missionary trip. We knew a couple there, Tony and Di, from Australia that would go over to Fiji. They go twice a year. Now, their ministry is called Entering Wedge, and you can find them entering www.enteringwedge.com. And they go over there and they do medical missionary work, set up health clinics, and I'm hoping my wife comes back because she was really excited to go on that trip. And so we, through a series of circumstances, ended up going to Fiji after our time. And then we just got back from Fiji. We're in California now, but from the 10th to the 28th, we were in Fiji. Do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Well, it was definitely the most life-changing mission trip I've ever been on. We really lived with the people. We didn't, we just slept where they slept, and no electricity, no running water, no refrigeration. So that part was good for us as a family, but then I felt like we really were able to bless the people because we took our health message, our true health message, and we're able to share it with the people. I've been on mission trips in the past where we just pass out drugs, and it doesn't really leave any lasting help for the people. But here, Miss Diane has made nice books, and we just go through and show them, this is good to eat, this is not, and just really able to minister to people,
in a practical way.
Yeah,
I was in charge of they would come through, get their blood sugar, get their blood pressure. I was in charge of handing them the books and giving them glasses. Many of the people would come through and they would look at the book, they couldn't read, give them the glasses, and they can read now and they can see. And so that was what I was in charge of, and just saw some, I don't know, giving sight to the blind is what it felt like. Just blessing. And of course, the books that they received were Great Controversy, Steps to Christ, Mount of Blessings, National Sunday Law.
I had a Ministry of Healing. Like, we didn't have very many copies, so I had 2 copies. So I was like, Lord, I don't know who to give this to. Please, if there's somebody that will ask for it, and then sure enough, there's one lady that saw I had it sitting there, and she's like, "Can I see that?" And I gave it to her, and she's like, "Oh, do you have very many of these?" And and she was just so happy to get it. So I knew the Lord needed it for her. And the other one, I ended up not giving out there. I took it with me, and I read it. And then the day before, when we were heading to the airport, I was like, "Oh, I've got to give this to somebody." I couldn't find anybody to give it to, so I just set it on the steps. But then as we were checking out of the motel, the lady was telling me that she's pregnant, and she's just going to sit there at the desk all night. And so I just knew I needed to get that book to her. So I went and got it and gave it to her, and she was so excited. She said, "I'm going to be up all night reading this book." And she was like, we just don't have books like this in Fiji. I'm very blessed to find this,
So I want to show you a couple of pictures from Fiji. Here is our group. Here's the group that we had there. We had a number of Fijians, local Fijians that helped us out. Here we are in the truck on our way up to this village that we went to. It was 5 hours in the back of this thing, just bouncing up and down. It was quite an experience. In fact, we went to places where not too many tourists go. And in fact, we got quite a few stairs, especially as we're coming back. We were packed up in even a smaller truck than that. It was like a single cab Toyota, and my legs were hanging off the back. And finally, I decided, it was actually the highlight of my trip. One of those simple pleasures. I ended up getting out of the truck as it's moving and standing on the bumper and just holding on and just experiencing and soaking in the environment. And sure got a lot of stares from the locals. I don't think they see too many big white guys hanging out the back of the carrier truck. So that was quite an awesome experience. We also here's another. This is Tony right here, and Di's in the background, and here we are with our family, and you have the entering wedge minibus in the back. So if you get a chance, go to enteringwedge.com and go check them out. Contact them if you ever wanted to go to Fiji. Certainly contact them. Now, as we said, when we first entered into Australia, and I want to talk a little bit about, before we finish up here, what the plan is for 2018. Now, what inspired us to set the agenda for the ministry, for our family ministry, Line of Truth Ministries, for 2018 was based upon that trip, the 2-week trip.
Yeah, the one where we went and visited and stayed in homes.
Both of us, we talked about that, and we knew that that's what we wanted to do in America. We had to do it. Not that we wanted it. We wanted to do it, but that God was calling us to do that, and He is calling us to do that. So however we're going to make it happen, it's going to happen, whether we got to walk or take a bus or whatever. So I want to just take a couple of minutes and show you what some of our goals are for the, let me pull it up right here, for next year. Here we go. Just pull up the website. There we go. So you can go to, this is our website, Line of Truth Ministries, and we got articles, videos, podcasts, downloads, and we're trying to continually add to that. And so you can go ahead and go on that website if you need any resources. And obviously our Facebook page and YouTube page as well. But if you go over all the way to the end, on the top of the menu, you have the support, donate, and I just want to cover, if you click on that, you can see what our goals are for 2018. So I want to encourage you to, if you get a chance, to do that. So what are some of our goals for 2018? Well, you see, number one is travel to USA for 6 months to encourage and strengthen new believers. Now that's believers in the one true God, that God is a Father, that Jesus Christ is truly the begotten Son of God. There's many people that are becoming aware of the history of the church and are accepting this truth and becoming a part of a movement. And because you become a part of that movement, sometimes that places you in a difficult situation with family members and brothers and sisters in Christ. And so there are a lot of people in the United States, in the world, but particularly in the United States, that have accepted this message. And we would like to go and travel and encourage, speak, do some other things as well. So that's our plan. That is one thing we are planning on.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic that back in 2011, we actually had a similar idea, didn't we?
Yes.
We went out and we bought a Class A RV, and our idea...
We were going to travel.
Yeah, we were going to travel and just do ministry and live by faith.
But we weren't ready yet.
Right. We got pregnant and we got cold feet.
I don't know if we're ready to live by faith now.
We got cold
He's teaching
feet
us.
And we went and sold it, and then we went and God took us on Plan B, a different route, and now He's bringing us all the way around.
Yeah, He has a habit of doing that, doesn't He? So that's number one. Travel. We're already making appointments. Now, if you have, we already have some places lined up in the U.S. We're trying to go down south for the first couple months while it's winter, especially since there's been such a cold front. But If you're interested in having us come to your area, please contact us. You can send me an email, Matt at Line of Truth, or connect with us on Facebook or the Facebook page, Messenger, uh, whatever. Just contact us, and we would love to come. Just minister however we can, even if it's just a family. Then you're out in the middle of nowhere. If we can make it, and just come study, just share your story. We can share our story, get to know you. That's we're really open and willing to do whatever the Lord leads us to do. And if you ever have any questions or prayer or need encouragement, you can also contact us as well. Like I said, we don't have any agenda. We don't really have any plan as far as how. We know that He has laid messages on our heart, and that's certainly an aspect of it. But there's also something else, and that comes with number 2 and 3. Produce more media, sermons, videos, articles. That's kind of, I think I have a list of almost 20 different topics that I am studying and preparing for and wanting to share either in sermons or articles. I have a lot of ideas and plans for that. So number 3 is add more of a health aspect to Line of Truth Ministries. Do you want to say something about?
Well, we did go to Misty Mountain to learn about health, and it's just always been a passion of mine, and the Lord has just revealed a lot, and I've experienced some pretty incredible healing in the last few months, and so we definitely, that is the right arm of our message, of our gospel, and so we want to start incorporating more.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that God has called you to minister in health and be a medical missionary. I have no doubt about that whatsoever, especially the testimony and the story that you've been through all your life, and
great health problems.
It's been on every diet, every single tried everything almost except for meat,
right? Vegetarian Atkins. All my life, but all variations of it. So
quite a story, and I have seen God work in the life of my wife in a tremendous way, especially in health. And I know that He's given you a story.
Sharing my testimony soon, because I know there's a lot that can relate.
Definitely. So that's part of the a burden that He's placed upon our hearts. Now, both of us, we went to the Wildwood college there. We were at Eden Valley, if you're familiar. We went to Misty Mountain. So we've been around self-supporting and health retreats for a while, and that's kind of always been something that's upon your heart, and we'll see what the Lord has in the future. But we certainly want to add more of a health aspect to the Line of Truth. Number 4 was establish at least one industry that will generate continuous financial support for the ministry. This really is the model that is given to us in the scriptures and in the spirit of prophecy, that the educational system that was revealed to the Lord's servant was that our educational system was really built and meant to train missionaries that would be able to support themselves. And unfortunately, that's not happening today. But be able to be industrious and start in different industries. So that's really a goal, a desire of ours, is to start at least some sort of family industry in order to support that. And we have a number of ideas, and we'll see how that develops, how the Lord leads with that. Now, number 5 is focus on producing educational materials to equip fellow believers to be active in outreach. Now, that's been a particular burden of mine, especially since I just got done reading a book called The Broken Blueprint, and how the Lord had revealed the system of education, just a completely different model than the world, and a completely different model than we see now in Adventist education. And we don't even see this model anywhere in the world, what God had designed. And so, He's laid it upon my heart, especially since we were at Eden Valley. We were part of the education program there, and which is ironic because I dropped out of college multiple times. But you know what? That's not true education. That's not real education. Real education comes by life experiences. It comes by reading and studying the Word of God and the spirit of prophecy. It comes by learning practical skills. Comes by failure, having problems and learning to solve problems, and having the Lord teach you specifically. And so that's really the true model of education. But God has put it upon my heart. I think there's a great need to just equip other people, because we're here doing our thing, doing the Line of Truth Ministries. But the truth is that God is calling everybody to be a missionary, and calling everybody to do medical missionary work too, right?
Right.
And so that is part of a desire on our heart to focus on producing educational materials and equipping the fellow believers in outreach. Now, how can you help Line of Truth to make our goals a reality? Now, we are overwhelmed by the amount of support that we have received in the last several months, just from those in Australia and all the people that we have met, just the emotional support, the mental support, and physical support, everything that they've done for us to encourage us. And but we are planning on continue on. So first of all, we're asking you, please pray for us as a family. We definitely need it. We have certainly felt...
We're going to have challenges traveling with children.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Our children are 6 and 3 at the moment. But so please pray for us, pray for our family, pray for this ministry, pray as we travel in the U.S. Number 2, please, if you feel inclined to share the website, share the resources, share on Facebook, share through email, get the word out about what we're trying to do. We would appreciate that if you wanted to help do that. So please pray, please share. And if the Lord puts it upon your heart, we could always use some help financially to support various expenses. Now, as you see here on this is on our website. You can go to lineoftruth.org. On the very end, support. The very right side of the menu, support and donate. And then down at the bottom, there's 2 different ways you can help support financially. You can go directly through PayPal or through the website itself. Now, what do we need financial support for? Well, obviously, we have a family. We are trying to do full-time ministry, and we have basic expenses as a family. But really, Lord has provided. We're not really too concerned about how He's going to do it. He has always been faithful in providing for all of our needs. But
that's right. And if you look in the Old Testament, a lot of times He calls His people to put their feet in the Jordan before He opens the waters. And that's kind of what we've done. We just, even though we don't feel like we've had a lot of, resources to do what we're going to do.
Well, let's put it this way. We stop being around the bush.
Okay.
We went ahead and started making appointments to travel because we knew that God had laid it upon our hearts to travel the U.S. and speak and share. And so we started booking appointments and telling people that we're going traveling. And but we already have the financial means to do that, right?
Right, or wheels to get there, basically.
Well, by faith we do. We actually do not at the moment have a vehicle or any way to get there. So we are raising funds and trusting in God that He's going to provide a vehicle for us. And Lord willing, also a small trailer in Australia. You would call it a caravan. Love the Australian people and their language. So in Australia, it'd be called a caravan, but so just a small trailer and a vehicle. That's kind of what we're looking at to as far as our needs. So if you feel inclined to support what we're doing, what our goals are, if you've been blessed by Line of Truth Ministry, just pray for us, share. If God puts it upon your heart, please consider financial donation as well. So that's pretty much it. looking back and thinking about the past year, it's been overwhelming. It's been humbling to see what God has done. I'm looking forward to a year from now sitting back down and doing this again.
No idea
and,
where we'll be.
and seeing what kind of stories we have
Right.
for next year, because I know He has big plans in store.
Yeah.
So thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement, all the encouraging words, and we look forward to seeing what God does through the line of truth, and seeing how God uses you and how we can connect and just share our love of the truth with each other.
And hopefully help finish this work quickly so we can all go home.
Amen.